Good afternoon and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. Henrik Larsson. Henrik Larsson can only be described as the King of Kings at Celtic, but could it have been so much different for the King of Kings if he had decided to leave Celtic earlier? Henrik Larsson has been speaking about the fact that why he loved Celtic so much. And he basically, when you see his story and where he grew up, you can understand why he loved Glasgow, because let's face it, where he grew up was just as rough as Glasgow in some parts. Narlander has an estate on the outskirts of Helsingborg. Helsingborg is a quiet city in the southern tip of Sweden. But Norrlanda, the estate, it's a complicated place. It may be covered in greenery, but the high-rise flats, by English standards, it's a bit like parts of Glasgow. Parts of Glasgow back in the day. Back in 2021, there was a man brutally murdered and shot dead in an underpass in the town. Larsson says that he's a complicated person when he thinks about his football career and he's devoted to his country, although he's unsure of his identity. He sees himself as a foreigner, Henrik had been talking. And Larsson said, he says, when he looks up at his old apartment, he knows that he has 106 caps for Sweden. He knows he's Swedish, but he's never felt 100% Swede. He says, I have respect for my father's Cape Verde heritage. He says, I don't know how that happened, he says, but when you're growing up and you're the only black person in the estate, there's people come from Yugoslavia, Greece, Finland, and when you're the only black person of complexion on the estate, you get called nigger a lot and you get in a lot of fights and things. He says, it used to hit them. I says, the mentality comes from home. He says, when you have to stand up for yourself, it wasn't an easy upbringing, but you have two options. You lay down and cry or you get on with it. I chose the second options. I got up and got on with it. Henrik Larsson went on to say about his time at Barcelona. I'm going to talk about that before Celtic. He says he won the Champions League final in 2006. He came up and he provided 2 assists against Arsenal. Feyenoord and Manchester United fans might be wondering what could have happened to their club if they'd got the striker in his prime. Celtic most defined Larsson as a person, he says. He says, I'm their King of Kings. 7 glorious seasons in Glasgow. Larsson scored 242 goals in 315 appearances, including 35 goals in 58 European matches. He's surely the last player to have played in Scotland who is regarded as world class, and I think we can all agree with that. I don't think there's been a player since that could walk straight into a Manchester United team, that could walk straight into a Barcelona team. In 2001, he won the European Golden Boot for 53 goals scored that season. Some regard him as the greatest player ever to be at Celtic. The players under Martin O'Neill at the time, he says, when you look at it, you had Chris Sutton, Alan Thompson, John Hartson. We were an excellent team. We beat Blackburn. We beat Liverpool on the way to the UEFA Cup final in 2003. With 16 or 17 internationals in our team, it was a strong Celtic side. Think about that to the modern day team where we've got a lot of prospects. We had 16 or 17 international players. And we're a team that was stronger than Rangers. He says, even when we played against Rangers, we hated each other. But when we finished, we were friends. Mostly Rangers fans had no problem. There was once I was out with Giovanni Bronckhorst. We were friends then. He was the Rangers defender. I had just bought a new Porsche. We were in Uddingston, and we're picking up some takeaway food. We used to order Chinese food a lot. Peking duck after the game. There was a drunk Rangers supporter who wasn't happy that he saw me with a new car as he was walking to it until Giovanni van Bronckhorst took the fan away and had a word with him. Larsson signed in 1997 after a turbulent spell at Feyenoord. The Swede went to the World Cup in 1994 but did not make the most of his talents. He went on to say when the legend, the one and only Wim Jansen, was appointed Celtic manager, he made Larsson his first assignment. And the Swede with the dreadlocks, inspired by Ruud Gullit and Bob Marley, he says he scored 16 goals to help deny Rangers their 10th consecutive championship in a row. Celtic years later would go on to win their second 9-in-a-row championship. Bringing that to an end at Celtic was the UEFA Cup final, perhaps Larsson's finest game for the club. He said in netted twice, they were beaten 3-2 in an extra time by Jose Mourinho. His Porto. And we can all remember that game, and we can all remember the noise from the Celtic support after the game as There's as many as 50,000 fans inside the stadium at Seville. Larsson informed the club shortly after that season would be his last. His teary departure in front of a packed Celtic Park. You'll remember that. You'll remember him filling up with tears. He says, "There's not often that I show emotion as a person," says Larsson, "but I spent 7 years at Celtic, and if I'd walked away without any tears, there'd have been something wrong. I didn't plan to cry, I didn't want to cry, but my heart told me if I didn't show a lot of emotion, people would think otherwise, and they'd think I'm a little bit shocked." I got about 30 offers after I announced I was leaving Celtic from Spain, Italy, Germany, France, and some from the United Arab Emirates. I got a phone call from my wife in Sweden in 2004 final, said, "Tell them they have to wait," as I didn't want to disturb my preparations for the Euros in 2004. She laughed and said, "I don't think they're going to wait." So she went straight over to Spain with my agent and took the negotiations herself. Oh, what is it with women dragging us to Spain? Obviously, there was a different dressing room to the one at Celtic. Coming from Barcelona, we had Ronaldo, we had Deco, we had Samuel Eto'o, just to name a few. I enjoyed being there, and Ronaldo had the pressure. He dealt with it completely differently. Larsson loved being at Barcelona. His goals and work rate he nearly didn't make the 2006 Champions League final because of injury. He said, "I had Lionel Messi hamstring in the build-up." He says, "It was touch and go between me and Messi, but I made it." As he stands on the bench and Messi was there, he says, "It's your time. It's your time," said Messi. After being on the pitch with players like Thierry Henry, there was no doubt that when you see Ronaldo up close, he says it's a different league altogether. Larsson left Barcelona that summer and he went on to score against Sev Goran Eriksson's England at the World Cup. The best managerial export, he says, from Sweden. But unfortunately, he said, of course, with those connections with Helsingborg, made that deal in 1989, made a most promising player. Eriksson left him out. I was there for a week and it went well. But Sven told me that I wasn't good enough for the job. Oh, could you think about that? After 2006 World Cup, I still thought he had some game left in him. At 34, Larsson made the shock return to Helsingborg. In a final twist, he would finally reunite. He would reunite with the manager that wanted him for years, Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson was dazzled. When I joined Manchester United, my brother Kim and Christensen and one of the boys, Larsson, said, "Alex Ferguson has asked if it would be possible for arrange a private jet home after the game." I was only there for 10 weeks, but it made me feel so welcome. I was living in the Lowry Hotel. Louis Saha, Patrick Evra would take me to lunch. Wayne Rooney too. I thought they really care. I didn't want to do harm by them. I didn't want to do anything that would dishonour the club. I wanted to represent Manchester United. He says, "I had the chance to go to Manchester United when I was younger and at Celtic, and I didn't want to leave Celtic. I could have left Celtic and got 10,000 to 15,000 a week more. But I'd just come off 3.5 years at Feyenoord, where it had been up and down, and he found his feet at Celtic. He wanted to go on with that. We played in the UEFA Cup final. We played for Sweden. He felt that he didn't need to go anywhere else. I didn't become a superstar at Barcelona. I became a superstar at Celtic." And that's the one and only King of Kings, Henrik Larsson, talking about his career